detailed summary of a guide to the good life. The Ancient Art of Stoic Joy, William B. Irvine. Introduction, Discovering Stoicism for Modern Life. William B. Irvine begins by sharing his personal journey of discovering Stoic philosophy and how it transformed his approach to life. He explains that Stoicism isn't about being emotionless or grim, but rather about finding lasting happiness and tranquility through practical wisdom. The book aims to introduce ancient Stoic techniques in a way that makes sense for our modern world. Irvine argues that just like people need a user's manual for new gadgets, we need clear instructions for living a good life, and Stoicism provides exactly that. Chapter 1, The Birth of Stoicism. This chapter takes us back to ancient Greece, where Stoicism began with Zeno of Citium around 300 BC. Irvine explains how Stoicism developed through three main periods. Early Stoa, with thinkers like Cleanthes, Middle Stoa, including Palladius, who brought it to Rome, and Late Stoa with famous philosophers like Seneca, Epictetus, and Marcus Aurelius. The author emphasizes that Stoicism was always meant to be practical philosophy for daily living, not just abstract theory. He describes how Stoics viewed philosophy as medicine for the soul, something to heal our worries and improve our lives. Chapter 2, Stoicism Psychological Techniques. Here, Irvine introduces core Stoic psychological tools that help maintain tranquility. He explains negative visualization, imagining losing what we have to appreciate it more. For example, thinking about losing your job makes you more grateful when you still have it. Another technique is the dichotomy of control, separating what we can control, our actions, from what we can't, external events, to avoid unnecessary frustration. Irvine shows how these methods help reduce anxiety and increase contentment in everyday situations. Chapter 3, Advice on Value and Desire. This chapter explores how Stoics determine what's truly valuable in life. Irvine explains the Stoic concept of distinguishing between things we can enjoy but shouldn't cling to, like wealth or reputation, and things that truly matter, like virtue and character. He discusses how to manage desires by either satisfying them, eliminating them, or moderating them. A key lesson is that we often want things not because they're valuable, but simply because we don't have them, and Stoicism teaches us to examine these impulses carefully. Chapter 4, Dealing with Other People. Irvine addresses how Stoics handle difficult social situations and relationships. He explains the concept of social fatalism, accepting that people will sometimes behave badly, just as we accept that weather will sometimes be bad. The chapter teaches how to deal with insults by either ignoring them, humorously agreeing with them, or using them as opportunities to practice patience. Irvine also discusses how Stoics approach love and friendship, enjoying relationships while remembering that people are mortal and circumstances can change. Chapter 5, Handling Insults and Difficulties. Building on social interactions, this chapter focuses specifically on overcoming challenges. Irvine explains the Stoic practice of premeditation of evils, mentally preparing for difficulties before they happen. For instance, imagining how you'd handle being insulted makes it easier when it actually occurs. The author shares practical techniques like viewing obstacles as tests of character or opportunities to practice virtue. He emphasizes that Stoics don't avoid problems but learn to navigate them with composure. Chapter 6, Managing Grief, Anger, and Negative Emotions. Here, Irvine explores Stoic strategies for emotional regulation. He explains how Stoics analyze emotions to understand their roots, often finding they stem from false judgments. For grief, they suggest balancing natural sadness with rational perspective, accepting that loss is part of life. For anger, they recommend pausing to consider whether the offense was intentional and whether getting angry will help. The chapter provides concrete examples of how to apply these techniques in modern life situations like traffic jams or work conflicts. Chapter 7, The Role of Fate and Amor Fati. This important chapter explains the Stoic concept of fate and the attitude of amor fati, love of fate. Irvine describes how Stoics view everything that happens as part of a larger, interconnected web of cause and effect. Rather than fighting reality, they practice accepting and even loving whatever occurs. The author shows how this doesn't mean passivity, but rather approaching life with flexibility and resilience. He provides modern examples like dealing with job loss or health issues through this Stoic lens. Chapter 8. The Stoic Approach to Pleasure and Enjoyment. Contrary to stereotypes, Irvine shows how Stoics actually embrace pleasure, but in a mindful way. They distinguish between enjoying present moments and becoming dependent on pleasures. The chapter explains techniques like delaying gratification to increase appreciation and periodically abstaining from comforts to avoid addiction to luxury. Irvine gives practical advice on applying these principles to modern pleasures like technology, food, and entertainment without becoming controlled by them. Chapter 9. Dealing with Old Age and Death. Irvine tackles these universal concerns through Stoic wisdom. For aging, Stoics recommend focusing on the advantages, like wisdom, rather than the losses. For death, they practice regular contemplation of mortality, not to be morbid, but to appreciate life more and live with greater purpose. The author explains how these practices help reduce fear and make the most of whatever time we have. He shares touching examples of how Stoic preparation can bring peace when facing life's final chapter. Chapter 10. Stoic Exercises for Daily Life. This practical chapter compiles specific exercises readers can use to implement Stoicism. Irvine describes morning rituals, like planning the day with Stoic principles, evening reviews, assessing what went well and what needs improvement, and ongoing practices like voluntary discomfort, occasionally choosing hardship to build resilience. He provides a straightforward 30-day plan for trying these techniques, with adjustments for different personality types and lifestyles. Chapter 11. Stoicism and Modern Psychology. Irvine connects ancient Stoic ideas to contemporary psychological research, showing how modern science confirms many Stoic insights. He discusses cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, which directly borrows from Stoic techniques for challenging irrational thoughts. The chapter also examines how Stoic practices align with findings about happiness, resilience, and emotional regulation in positive psychology. Irvine makes a compelling case that Stoicism wasn't just wise for its time, but remains scientifically valid today. Chapter 12. Potential Criticisms and Responses. Here, Irvine honestly addresses common objections to Stoicism. He considers whether Stoicism is too passive, whether it suppresses healthy emotions, and whether its ideals are unrealistic. For each criticism, he provides thoughtful Stoic responses while acknowledging where adaptations might be needed for modern practitioners. This balanced approach helps readers evaluate Stoicism's strengths and limitations for themselves. Chapter 13. Becoming a Modern Stoic. The final chapter offers guidance for developing a personal Stoic practice. Irvine suggests starting small with 1 or 2 techniques, tracking progress, and gradually incorporating more Stoic principles. He emphasizes that Stoicism isn't about perfection, but continuous improvement. The author shares his own experiences and those of other modern Stoics to show how this ancient philosophy can lead to genuine joy and resilience in contemporary life. He leaves readers with encouragement to experiment and find their own version of the good life. Conclusion: the enduring value of Stoicism. Irvine concludes by reflecting on why Stoicism remains relevant after 2,000 years. In a world of constant change and uncertainty, Stoic principles provide an anchor of stability and clarity. The book ends with an invitation to view philosophy not as abstract academic study, but as a practical toolkit for living well, one that can help anyone find tranquility, purpose, and joy, regardless of external circumstances. Thanks for your time. See you later.